talked about Ethereum already, so this gets into smart contracts and tokens. So this is kind of like the first one, the cryptocurrency, just kind of a comparison between traditional contracts and smart contracts. Basically faster, programmable. You
can actually interact with the new programmable money, and so when you have payouts or something, you don't meet a service level agreement. Instead of having that where it's in a contract and then you have to make sure they pay you your check because that's what's in the contract. Well, if the contract knows about the metrics on that service level agreement, they're not met, it can automatically pay out instantly.
So it works really good with digitally defined and checkable metrics that you want to try to do a contract with, because you can do it completely automated where you say, I bet, you can do it for bets or, basically any sort of agreement you can agree on, you can make it all programmable and transparent so everyone knows exactly what's going to happen. Let's see. Create tokens. We talked a little about tokens.
Yeah, and I guess I wouldn't talk that much about tokens, but essentially tokens are...
That's the next slide, but you want to talk about smart contracts, be the only thing you want to
Yeah, smart contracts right now, I haven't seen too much interesting stuff actually be done with them. Most of them are tokens. And honestly, I can't think of it on one smart contract that was really super innovative. But essentially, it's programmable contracts that that they're going to execute in a very predefined way.
I usually think of a contract with a multi-page agreement. An Ethereum contract could be very short. It's just basically an agreement that can be executed automatically. But yeah, I guess we'll go into the tokens next. That's kind of what that's mostly what Ethereum's used for at the moment, anyway. So like game tokens, it's kind of the same thought space, I guess. I'll let Harry kind of talk more about tokens as he's been working more in that area.
Yeah, tokens are essentially, they're usually redeemable for some sort of service or something. So like one of the tokens I'm invested in is Golem, and they're essentially, your token essentially gives you rights to do some computation on other people's computers. And essentially the tokens are, they're used within a smart contract to be able to do something. They're set aside that, okay, you need to have one of these specific tokens. They're just like Ethereum or whatever else.
It's like an app coin or something.
Yeah. So essentially, they're just a way to differentiate one of these. Because right now the way the tokens work on Ethereum, you have Ethereum Ether, the actual money, the currency. When you buy a token, that comes out of the Ethereum pool, and that token's set aside, and then that is marked. Everyone in the network can see that that's that token, and so there's different ways you can use these tokens. Like you can have them, you can do like ride sharing things where, okay, this token is good for use on this ride sharing network, which that network would actually be a smart contract, which deals with people's reputation and like the SLA kind of thing. That, okay, well, they're going to get you there, they're going to deliver you where you want to be. They're not going to take you out in the desert somewhere or something like that. That you have these, you have greater granularity on what you can do with those tokens. That it's essentially just adding another layer of programming that you can do that's very specific to a set of things. And so
because it's money once removed, so you can sort of tailor how the token is handled.
And right now, there's been a bunch of token sales, like just gobs of money, and probably all of them are going to end up being scams. And not even not attempting to be scams. It's that they're trying to do something good, but making new things and doing it right and having a good team is very hard to do. And look how many startups fail, and they have investors that are very much behind them and trying to support them.
Done the research and whatnot.
And they still fail at a very high rate. And that's kind of the same thing that I see with tokens. Is that anyone can issue these tokens, and then hey, we're going to sell a bunch of these. And that's going to fund our development to make this product. And so I would be very reticent about investing in tokens unless you really know what you're doing. That being said, I've only invested in 2 tokens, and I'm really thinking about dropping those because it's just been such a crazy roller coaster ride, and a lot of them are so early stage that it's very tough to tell. But essentially, these tokens, can provide for different business models. And I actually talked to GMTel about possibly, because one of their problems, they're a internet provider cooperative, and they want to provide their services, as a nonprofit, at the best level for the cheapest amount. And part of the problem is they don't have enough customers. If they don't have enough customers, all the infrastructure so costs, it gets divided out fewer people, it's more expensive. So what I suggested to them was do a token sale. So when you build new infrastructure, people buy tokens in it because, well, a lot of the infrastructure is shared by other people. And so, like, if they tokenize it, I buy a bunch of tokens because, well, those tokens are going to buy me bandwidth. And if I buy them early on, I can get a lot of bandwidth really cheaply. And so I'll be able to redeem those tokens in the future for this bandwidth. And so you can really do a lot of really innovative
it's kind of like a
business
futures
models.
contract in a way, but in more of a payment-based futures contract. I don't know exactly
Yeah.
the best way to explain it.
And I think tokens is still pretty ill-defined in that they can be used for so many different things. It's tough to pigeonhole them into one category. But I think ultimately they're going to be very useful for doing like distributed ride-sharing apps and paying for infrastructure. And who knows, maybe government in the future will just be a tokenized cooperative that instead of paying for police, you just have or instead of paying taxes to pay for police and fire and all other stuff, you actually just are part of a bunch of these smart contracts where you invest in tokens that, well, I want the fire department to come put out my house fire if that ever happens, and I'm willing to buy the tokens to support that. And they're just a way of making very specific currencies for very specific value.
It's kind of like my little example at the bottom with like a carnival. Like you go to the carnival if you want to ride a ride. Well, you don't hand out the money. You go and say, "Hey, I need tickets so I can go ride the ride." That's basically what a token is, except for the idea that you don't have that central place where you have to go and buy the money or trade your money in for tickets. You could have a more decentralized carnival where a bunch of people could have rides. They could all just decide to show up at this one place, and you have this kind of more universal carnival token.
It's a marketplace for carnival tickets in that metaphor. So yeah,
But it allows for the decentralized. You can organize this thing outside of it because you can have this exchange between farther reaches.
And this is also one of the newest developments in the cryptocurrency space. It's only been like the last 9 months or
the tokens have
12 to 9 months that tokens were really a big thing. So it's still developing, and we'll see actually how many actually pan out. But I have a feeling it's going to be in the low double digits of percentages. And when there's probably at least 600 or 700 tokens by now, and there's some that I guess one other issue as far as investing is concerned, a lot of them do these initial coin offerings, and they structure them in a horrible way. So they get like Bancor is like some exchange thing. They have like 20 lines of code written, yet they raised $150 million in like 8 minutes. And that's the problem is that, well, they put out all these tokens and they do it for a limited amount of time, or they structure them in such a way that it just drives the price way up and gets a bunch of people to buy in as quickly as possible, trying to get rich quick. And the problem is that, like, well, it works. They get rich, but the people buying in don't necessarily. If they don't sell right away, they're gonna get burned. And so it's very if you are gonna, especially if you're investing in the initial coin offerings, do your research, and I would just stay far away from it mostly. Like, I don't invest in anything until it's got at least 50 million in market cap, because at that point there's got to be quite a few people colluding before they're pumping and dumping this thing if it's worth 50 million already. And even nowadays with the inflated prices, that might be lower, too low of a limit.